All right, so I am here joined by Carrie Rose, the founder and CEO of Rise at Seven, with offices in Sheffield, London, Manchester, and New York City coming soon. A self-proclaimed search-first creative agency. Really excited to hear about that. Welcome, Carrie.
Hello, nice to meet you and finally get on.
Yeah, we were just chatting before we started recording about how busy you are and how it's been difficult, probably a year and a half trying to get you scheduled here. So I'm really, really appreciative of your time. I know you're busy, award-winning agency, 4 offices, going international. Let's just go back a little bit more. Tell me how you got into, what were you doing before the agency, and tell me how you the founder story about how you founded Rise at Seven.
Oh God, okay, loads of stories. So I've worked in agency life ever since I graduated university. So I studied new media at uni. I graduated and I went straight into an agency called Branded 3. And I don't know if many people know who Branded 3 were, but they was well known as the best search agency in Europe, if not in the world. It was quite well known. So I think if you ever Googled an SEO topic, Branded 3's blog more than likely ranked or come up in some way. So, these were experts and leaders. So I worked there for about 6 years and I progressed through the rankings there, mostly in the creative side. So at Branded 3, most of it was technical SEO, a lot of on-site content. But what they really saw was this change and shift from earning links, paying for links to earning links. And they kind of built this like PR team, but where I sat was around the big creative campaigns. How can it all tie together through on-site content and social and even bigger than that? So I kind of was a senior campaign strategist there. I ended up progressing quite fast to the point of being quite in demand freelance. I started doing a bit of freelance on the side and made more money doing freelance than I did my own job. And I knew one day this is something that I want to start my own business. I'm quite entrepreneurial. I have the typical stories of selling chocolate bars at schools and all that sort of stuff. So I knew one day I wanted to do this. I don't know if many people listening know about The Apprentice. Do you know about The Apprentice? BBC's TV show? Okay. So I applied to go on that show. I got it through. I made it to the finals. It was final 30. And my business plan was to start my own agency. And essentially I didn't end up getting on the show because the investors, when you go through the audition process, at the very end, they basically go through your business plan and they either decide to put you on the show or recommend private investment. And essentially they told me to go get some money and start the business as soon as possible. They was like, your business plan is perfect. You need to go, you need to move fast. So within 2 weeks, I went and got some investment. I started and launched the agency with a guy called Stephen Kenry. And from there, we have grown rapid.
Something I really want to dig on there is the investment portion of it, right? Yeah, so are you comfortable talking about, you don't have to give the numbers if you're not comfortable with it, but can you talk to me about that process? Because something that we get asked a lot here is, do I need an investment? Should I take out a loan to get my agency started? Can you kind of walk me through that process and that mindset of, you don't have to tell me how much, but like, what did you feel like, or what did they feel like you needed the startup capital for? And then how did you deploy that capital once you got it?
Yeah, so it's really interesting because on reflection, I think I have different opinions about it now than I did then. So I guess at that period, I wanted money to be able to go higher and spend on marketing. So the first thing that I wanted to do was market the agency. I needed everybody to know about us. I had to put money behind, posting on social, paid ads. It could be absolutely anything, or, getting out there for conferences, doing talks. And I needed money to be able to do that. So I guess that's really where we saw the investment start off. We only received, I can't say what it is, but I think I can say it was 5 figures. Essentially, we got the money and we paid it back within 3 months. I don't think we needed it. But one thing I will say that the investment did is it gave us massive confidence. I did not look at the bank account for the first 6 months because I knew that I had a bit of money in the bank to cover any, bad day. And I just knew that all I wanted to spend my efforts and time doing is selling. Go market the agency. And I think that level of confidence is really actually a big part of our success, because I just didn't ever look back. I didn't ever look at, I didn't worry about the money. I didn't worry about sales or anything like that. I just focused on bringing the money in because the investment gave me confidence to be able to do that. So I think if people are wondering, do you need investment and things like that? I don't think you do. I didn't need it. So I made profit from day one. That's very rare though. Very rare to make profit from day one. But the only way I did that, and somebody told me this, if you go focus on sales, everything else falls into place. So that's what I did for the first 6 months. Sell as much as possible, because everything does fall into place. Money buys you people, it buys you time, it buys you everything else, tools, etc. So I don't think you need investment to be able to grow a successful agency or business, but I do think the thing it does give you is confidence.
For sure. Cash is definitely oxygen. It gives you runway. It does give you that breathing room, especially, if you're going to market with a very strong marketing strategy. We advertise quite a bit and it's very expensive. And it's not just the cost of the ads too. It's the people, it's the media buyers, it's the analytics specialists. It's a whole bunch of things that go into it. Right. So you were able to repay the investment within 3 months.
Yeah.
I haven't been on your website in a while. It looks like you guys redesigned it. It looks really great, but you shifted a little bit more towards a search first creative agency angle. Am I incorrect that you were initially a PR? Is that what was your go-to-market offer that allowed you to pay back your investment so quickly?
So digital PR. So at the time, we actually saw kind of the industry shift massively. There was huge demand for digital PR, but we kind of got there a little bit early. I think we got there around 6 months early before the demand kind of peaked, but that's really where it came from. I think the secret really is spotting an opportunity before it actually comes to market. And I think that's what we did. Essentially, we saw a shift in the industry where SEO was mostly being brought in-house, and SEO was bought via projects. So typically when I used to work at Brand 3, SEO retainers really was common. You're talking probably 15, 20, 25,000, pounds or dollars a month of, some of these big SEO retainers, if not more. However, what we saw is a massive shift of SEO going in-house and SEO being hired on a project basis. But actually people were still spending that budget, but on links. But they wanted to earn those, good content, good digital PR, basically. So essentially, digital PR was the way that we just focused on. So we started as an SEO agency. We did technical SEO, content, and PR. The first retainer we won was full service in that way. However, the digital PR side of the agency grew to around 70% of our revenue in our first year. So it was a lot. So digital PR really was the growth story for us, really.
For sure. I think just, I know that your timeline a little bit here too, in the timeline of the market, the industry moving away from, link building to even the terminology, digital PR, right?
Exactly.
So can you talk to me a little bit about too, because we also kind of made a joke about how even, I've been in this business for 13 years now and still to this day, like people shit their pants when it comes to link building, right? You've obviously figured out a very good offer, a very good system for delivering what I can only assume are very high quality, much more focused on PR, virality, content-based links, not like, hey, guest posting, stuff like that. Can you talk to me a little bit about what your digital PR strategy entails and how you acquire those links?
Yeah, for sure. So I guess overarching the strategy is, or the thought process is, I still to this day think a lot of agencies get it wrong. Even some digital PR agencies, I still think they get it wrong. So I guess Google has moved away from manipulating users. Instead of manipulating people to think this website deserves to rank, it's actually earning it, creating good content, a good brand that people trust. And that's what it's all about, is trust. So the only way to gain real trust, and I mean, a trustworthy finance brand, a bank or anything like that, is through good brand awareness, good PR, good social, good content, and good thought leadership. So all of these kind of channels fitting together to earn links in the STEM. So I guess still to this day, I'm seeing kind of infographics and, surveys and all that sort of stuff, which is, historically it worked, but still manipulated users to say, you should trust this brand. But actually they didn't. They saw an infographic that was like, how much of use is that to me? So I guess our digital PR process is a little bit different. We run creative brand campaigns. And this is to bring, because I think historically, and it still does occur to this day, but I think we are moving closer to this, internally, client side, their brand and their PR teams and their digital and SEO teams, they do not talk and they do not work together. But we essentially are the bridge. We're the bridge between brand and PR and SEO and digital. And we're like, hey, Did you know if you work together? Did you know if that content piece that you've done on social media, you could put it on the blog, and that blog could actually, rank for these key terms if we worked with SEO on this? Did you know that this thing that you've done over there from a brand perspective, if you tied that with the digital channels, you could be driving traffic and sales and, And I think they just never really talked to each other. So I just knew there was an agency needed to come out of this space that understood both sides. I knew that one day somebody was going to do this, and then I decided it was going to be ours. So our process is create good brand stories, good content, especially on the content marketing side, that earns national press coverage, national press links, but also the most important thing is driving traffic. One of the things that I argue to this day, but I can't necessarily prove it just yet, but I think links that actually get clicked on is one of the most important things for SEO. I think, a link that doesn't get clicks is not really going to provide value for a user or for Google, if a link is just there for a link's sake. Whereas if you're getting links from high traffic domains, high traffic pages, and it's actually converting users, then Google knows, that worked. That's a good one. So ultimately, that's what we look for. How do we build links that actually drive traffic and drive conversions? So we work with a lot of product teams, brand teams, social teams to enable to do that.
Yeah, I see that a lot. And the funny thing is that it's probably the easiest thing for Google it's easy for them to track and manage that, right? To understand links that have, I mean, there's software out there like Ahrefs that tell us this stuff too. If Ahrefs can do it, then the smartest engineers in the world can certainly do it.
The funniest thing is, every week I still get emails from link builders, and they're like, you could buy a link on Forbes for $1,000. Actually, I once replied because I wanted to see how much it was, just for I was like, right, I'm curious, how much are you selling this for still to this day? And it was $3,000 for a link on Forbes. I was like, you do realize I got 4 of them today and I earned it for free. That's crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy. So I don't want to steal the show from you, but I have a quick story to tell about PR, and actually a crazy story too. So one of our clients is the largest cannabis brand in the United States, right? And they got to that point because the way that cannabis operates here in the US anyways, that they have to sell through dispensaries. So they're essentially a B2B2C companies. They sell to a dispensary and then which sells through to customers, right? So they don't have any access to customer data, right? It's all B2B relationships. So they didn't even have a website when we started working with them a year ago, and they had already done over $100 million in sales. Crazy.
Yeah.
So they basically, within 6 months, their traffic has gone through the roof just by setting up the pages, because they did some very basic PR stuff. Their founder story is amazing. So they pitched that story to outlets, got covered, picked up a handful of links, nothing crazy. But you combine that with the amount of people that are going to Google and searching for their product directly, it's easy to tie that actual, like you said, that real truth for what people are actually looking for and caring about. You literally cannot fake that, as much as SEOs want to try, right? But funny story about that too. So this is where I was really going with this, was that there was a person that was working with the PR company that is now under a huge lawsuit because they were working for one of the top publications and they were selling backdoor articles. And those articles too, they are backdoor articles. They're not they never make it to the front page of Forbes. It's like a contributed article or paid through somebody else. And they found out that he brokered $3 million worth of links through the company, and he's going to prison now. It's actually kind of mind-blowing.
That's wild.
Yeah, it is wild. But if you think about it, I think we are so close to it as SEOs and link builders. We've been doing it so long, and we're kind of numb to it. It's like, yeah, you sell links, whatever. But when you think about the manipulation, and it's fraud. Yeah, it's crazy.
A case study on this really is we've been working with a UK travel brand. They basically sell spa breaks, and essentially, when we first started working with them, I said, what's your dream publication to be in? Because, we can get you any publication, if we're creative with it, whether it's Washington Post, CNN, or BBC or anything like that. And he said Forbes. And I was like, okay, why Forbes? And he said he was the founder of the company. So it was a bit of an ego thing, business owners want to be on Forbes. So I was like, okay, well, I'll get you a link on Forbes. And I got it within 24 hours. And what I said to him is that I'm going to teach you something here. So I showed him the GA profile of that link. And I said, guess how many people clicked on your website from that Forbes article? And he was like, I don't know, 500, 1,000. I went, 3. I was like, people who are buying spa breaks aren't reading Forbes, and they don't care about, whatever the article was around this Forbes kind of story. I just said, we need to be targeting publications to get links from where your audience are hanging, you know, Cosmopolitan, Elle Magazine, Grazia, Marie Claire. And then we showed him, like, over the next 12 months, you know, we've built over 3,000 links on top tier price, and all of them are driving traffic and sales. So not only are we, you know, improving organic, but we're reaching your customers and your audience. And that's really what I think I'm trying to change from the SEO perspective. You can do it. Obviously it's hard, you've got to be creative, but that's why we are a search first creative agency. You have to be creative to do that.
That's why you guys are crushing it. So just quickly off that, because I know what people are going to ask, right?
Yeah, sure.
To get to the point where you're able to get somebody a link on Forbes in 24 hours or Washington Post, is that through relationships? How long did it take to build those relationships? How did you build those relationships? Did you hire people? Does that come from you? Can you kind of talk to me about what that process looks like?
Yeah, sure. Bits of both. So ultimately, I think relationships probably accounts for around 40% of it. I don't think it's the majority of, you know, importance when it comes to digital PR. But I do think, you know, when you have a relationship with those sort of press, they come to you constantly. So we have people at, you know, the Financial Times and CNN, they message us every Monday morning and they're like, what have you got for me today? And this is specifically in like the Forex space. We work with a lot of Forex and crypto brands. And they're like, we want comments and data around what's going on in the crypto market. And we get links off the back of that. So I think relationships is important. But ultimately, I think it's also all about giving a good story. I think the way that PRs as well as SEOs go wrong is that people think that journalists care about your brand or your product, and they don't. They don't give a shit about your product or your brand. What they want is a really good story. If you can give me a good story with really good data that's maybe unique, then yeah, I'll cover you guys and I'll come back for more. I did a talk about this once, and somebody put their hand up in this audience and they said, well, it's easy when you've got a nice brand, you know, people want to cover your products or your stories or your data. But what about when you have a bit of a boring brand or a tough brand? And they kind of I said, where do you work, to this girl? And she said, oh, I work at a fraud prevention company. And I said, have you got any data around which sort of industries are committing the most fraud? You know, I don't know, takeaways, hairdressers, that sort of thing. And she said, yeah, we track that on a yearly basis. I went, that data is gold mine for CNN or USA Today. I said, all you've got to do is give them a snippet of it and then say, if you want some more of this, then we can work together and stay in touch with them. But I think the best way to do that is quite, what's the word? Like in a relaxed space. So like on Twitter. Follow them on Twitter, share insight with them. So one of my tricks that I do from a relationship point of view is when I land a piece of coverage with them or a link, I'll go, hey, did you know that that coverage that you wrote for us, that link to our website, it drove 7,000 people to, and our clients the happiest ever. Here's a little gift from us to say thank you. What they do is screenshot that, send it to their boss, because they're looking for a pay rise and a promotion. So they're like, hey, look at what I achieved for this brand. So I always kind of give them insight from us and stuff like that to build relationships. But I think ultimately the biggest thing is just giving them a story rather than actually promoting your product or your brand. Give them a story that's useful for them, because then they'll just keep coming back. Yeah,
100%. I totally agree. I think so many times as business owners, we're too close, right? And we care so much and we care so deeply that we make the assumption that other people care, but they don't. I mean, you have to understand a journalist is doing a job. Their job is to get eyeballs, traffic, and clicks, and they need something interesting in order to do that. And that level of interest has to be like, you have to fundamentally understand what to do. One of the things that we teach the most, actually, people in the blueprint is about offer creation, right? Offer creation is literally just understanding what it is that other humans want that you can then tie back to whatever it is that you're selling. So things like founder stories, right? If you've got like this cannabis company, right? It's interesting because it's cannabis, you know, there's all sorts of stuff, but these kids sold the company before and took every single dollar that they had and rolled it into this company and slept in their car for 2 years. Like the true founder story, like that in itself is like gold. Boom. You can sell that to anyone, you know? So like, but then there's also, like you said, the data points, right? Like what kind of data can you get? Should you commission your own studies, or just, can you run your own survey? We just ran a survey to 1,000 agencies to collect kind of like what their biggest problems were and like what revenue they're actually doing. And now we're going to present that back, you know, to them, run ads to it, and then pitch that to like some search engine journals and stuff like that, right? Because it's interesting information. You just got to, and like, if you don't understand those things, I tell people all the time, like you should really go take a class in psychology. You have to understand how people think and how they work. And when you boil it down, like we're simple, you know, humans aren't overly complicated.
It's so true.
It's really, really true.
You have to take your product and just break it down. So like, say if you are selling, oh God, I'm going to put myself on the spot here, but say if you're selling insurance, life insurance or car insurance, you got to think, okay, when people are buying car insurance, what is it they care about? What is it that they're interested in? What is it they watch on TV? What is it that they engage with? What celebrities do they follow on Twitter and all that sort of stuff? I think you have to understand the breakdown of when people are buying car insurance, their interests and stuff like that, and capture them that way, rather than just like, how can we, you know, get links to car insurance pages? Well, you're not going to, you know, that's really hard to do. There are easier ways to do that, but you've got to really think about what is it that journalists care about, what is it users care about, and ultimately, one thing I always give to advice to people is journalists are KPI'd on traffic to their articles and social shares. What's going to get them social shares? Clickbait kind of titles, those sort of creative campaigns, you know, something wild, a bit out there. So one brand I was speaking to before, they sold sex toys. And, you know, so many businesses sell sex toys, you know, how can they get, especially in national press, how do you get national press to talk about sex toys? Because a lot of national press don't really like to talk about that sort of thing, especially not linked to. However, they come up with this, and we ran it with them, a Easter egg, and inside it was a bit like a Kinder egg. So, you know, inside of a Kinder egg, you get a little toy for children. Well, they launched an adult version, which is an Easter egg, and inside you get a sex toy. And that went viral, got over 100 links, drove 10,000 people to the website. And you just got to take your product and think a little bit bigger, think a little bit out there of what is it that press are going to get shares from in that way.
It's a great point. So we're coming to the top of the hour. I know you're busy. I don't want to take too much of your time. One kind of final pocket of questions here about agency growth, right? How long has Rise been in business for?
So we are just, we're just about to come up to our 3rd year. So amazing. The new year starts on 1st of July for us, and we're just about to finish our 2nd year. So it's been good.
And you have 3 offices in the UK, 1 in the US coming up. How many staff do you have working for you now?
To date, we have 101.
Wow.
We got the most we've ever got up to, which was in the last few months, was 108. We've had a bit of a shift around. I don't know if there's lots of moving going on in the US, but there's lots of movement going on in the UK as well. So we have about 101 members of staff, and we're hiring as well. So to get to that in 2.5, 3 years is really good. It's crazy.
It really is insane. So that's what I wanted to dig into, right? I mean, I know it's difficult to boil down into some simple kind of tips, but a lot of folks watching this now are going to be doing $10,000 to $20,000 a month and hitting plateaus. What would you tell them? I mean, in terms of your aggressive growth, in terms of, mindset tips, anything, like what do you attribute your, because that level of growth is, for an agency, is really, really impressive. Like to get to 100 people in less than 3 years is massive. What do you attribute that to? Like, what do you think your path was? Anything that you can share with the people that might help them out?
Yeah, for sure. I guess the biggest thing that I would honestly say is, there's that quote of, is it better to be better or better to be different? Be different. That makes you stand out every single time. I don't know if you've ever heard of the theory of the purple cow. So basically, if you have a line of people, you want to make sure that you stand out like a purple cow kind of thing. And that's the thing with agencies right now. There's so many SEO agencies, there's so many creative agencies, PR agencies, content agencies, that actually, when you're pitching against maybe 5, 6, 7 others, you need to make sure you look different, because that's just what's going to capture attention. So everything we do, from our pitch decks, our brand, our social posts, the way we kind of service, we make sure we talk and act different. But it means that we have to innovate all the time. So Rise at 7 changes every 3 months, and that's crazy. As you can imagine, that's not very healthy during, we've had a lot of change in the world, with the pandemic and stuff like that, but I actually think that has helped us be a lot more agile. So I think being agile, change, and standing out as being different is the number one piece of advice I would say to everybody, because I think there's too many agencies to look the same. Don't talk the same, you need to completely stand out and look different, because that's what people want right now. I think marketers and digital, they're a little bit bored. They want something different. So I think that's an opportunity for a lot of agencies.
Yeah, it's really good to hear. Something that, again, like a core fundamental that we teach is the offer design system. And really what it boils down to is pain points. Like, first of all, dialing on a singular type of customer, like stop trying to work with everyone. You just can't do it. Like focus on who you do best with and understand what their pain points are and customize. Like you can't change SEO as it is, but I think looking at your brand and understanding the nuances in SEO for the type of brands that you want to work with, it's pretty clear coming to your website who it is that you're speaking to and how you can help them. It's very
I agree.
clear.
So that's the one thing I'd advise. So we have 4 values at Rise at 7, and that's for our staff and also our clients. If you do not tick those values, you do not get a job here, and you also do not work with us as an agency. I think that's a big secret of our success as well. So our people and clients literally match. So our values are sharp as a tack, enthusiastic as hell, expert in your field, and proud. So I think if you do not, tick those values as a brand, then you just don't get to work with us. We turned down a £1 million brand. Well, it was a brand with a £1 million marketing budget because we did not believe that they tick those values. And that was the hardest thing to do as a business owner. But you've got to stay true to it. But because I also think it's important to protect the people, protect what you're known for, and work with like-minded people. That's the thing that I would recommend as well, is remember that you're working with people. You're not working with businesses, you're working with people. You got to match in that way.
Yeah, I really, really love that. I was writing this LinkedIn post yesterday, but I stopped because it came off a little bit too aggressive. But it was talking about how like marketing ethics, right? Because so many times as SEOs, we like demonize people for buying links, but it's like, hold up, like you might be doing true outreach, but like you're working with, and this is from my experience, right? The first job that I took in the marketing field with a company called Sapient, huge marketing agency, right? And we were working with, I don't give a shit, I'll say it, Monsanto, who's literally killing the planet, right? And like we're sitting here and they're like demonizing some of the tactics that we're using, but I'm like, yo, we're helping this company to do things that aren't ethical. Like us as marketers, I feel like we need to, it's a superpower that we have. We understand humans, we understand how to move them and motivate them. There has to be a certain code of ethics that we need to carry ourselves with. So it's good to hear you say that you've turned down stuff, because when I literally left that company over time because I was like, I'm not going to help people buy more shit that, like, it's one thing to help people buy shit that they don't need, consumerism, all about it, whatever. But to buy shit that's actually going to hurt them or hurt others, like we have to draw the line somewhere. And like some of these brands are so big and so powerful and they throw money around, and agencies are like, yeah, I'll help you do that. And we're literally helping them to do things that are just flat out unethical. That was a conversation that I think is worth having in the industry, because we throw stones at each other over dumb shit that doesn't really matter. Like, who cares? Somebody buys a link, who cares? We're not hurting anyone, right? Like, it might not be the right way to do it from a client point of view, but you're doing what you can with what you're given, I guess, in a sense. But like, there needs to be a larger conversation, I think, from leaders like yourself about ethics, right? And like who we choose to help out with, because as you said, there's a lot of changes happening in our planet and just where we're going as humanity that I think we don't realize how much business and marketing drives these things. Like we're literally driving what people see, and what people see becomes people's realities, and it's really, really important. So it's good to hear that you guys have ethos. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think that's the same in client relationships. So we have a rule of, one of the favorite quotes, I don't know where I heard this, but I heard it and I loved it. And it was like, I would rather have a hole in my business than an arsehole. And I always loved that, because when I've worked with clients that are also arseholes, haven't we all? We all work with them. And I there's a certain level that you can take, but actually I think there's a moment when you go, you're not for us. We don't enjoy working with you. The money might be big. And that was in the early days of Rise at 7. It was probably month 5. We had a gambling brand come to us. I used to work with them years ago, and they was the hardest client I've ever worked on. And they was like, we want to work with you. You understand, you understand our strategy, you understand our brand. And I just said, no. I said, honestly, that's the last thing that I want right now. And it could have changed and transformed the business. But actually, I think we need to also stick with, the people we work with as well, and not give ourselves a hard time, because we work in marketing. It's meant to be fun.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. And the thing is too, is that you bite the carrot for the money, but then you flush them through your agency, and then you're putting that problem on all your people. And then your people are like, fuck this. I don't want to work here anymore. I don't want to work for this asshole. And then your people churn out, and then you've got a much bigger problem to deal with, which is, if your people start leaving, it's, you already know that your business is, you lead the business, but it's based on the people that you've accumulated to take your vision forward, so creating a toxic culture with clients is a whole nother thing that, it's not worth the money up front. Don't chase the carrot is what they say. But anyways, I appreciate your time, Carrie. You've given us more than generous with your time. For those people watching, Carrie has an amazing YouTube channel. She gives a lot of behind the scenes at her agency and some really cool vlog stuff. Is there anywhere else that people can check you out to get more information on you, Carrie?
I guess LinkedIn and Twitter. You can find me at Carrie Rose anywhere on any channel. So quite easy to find.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate your time. We all do. Stopping by, sharing some insights on agency growth and some digital PR stuff. So hopefully we'll see you here from you soon.
Thank you so much.